Hi, friends. Welcome back. Today is the day that we are finally going to read Houdini's DNA panel. Like I mentioned before in the community post, this is not a sponsored video, but we did go through the wisdom panel DNA test, I guess. When we adopted Houdini, we were told that he was a lab mix, a black lab mix, which looking at him, that much was obvious. Um, my daughter and I always assumed he was majority black lab, but we were very curious as to what else he was. He was clearly not a full-blooded black lab, which is fine. We always adopt our animals rather than going to a breeder. It's just a philosophy of ours to do that. But I was very curious as to what the DNA results would be. There were times when I would look at him, I would see some boxer in him. He has a very sleek head, skull, and I thought perhaps maybe some Malinois. He has that Malinois type bone structure in his skull. He looks to be mostly black. He looks to be mostly black, but out in the sunlight, he does have a lot of brown going up his sides and on his legs, but it's a very deep brown. He does have, you can't see it now, does have a white splotch on his chest with some black dots. And on the very back of his tongue, he has a couple of black spots. But other than that, he appears to be mostly black lab. My daughter thought that he may have some greyhound in him, and I can see where she would think that when he runs, his whole body like accordions in the way the greyhound breed and the breeds in that family do. He is a very fast runner. Not necessarily greyhound speed, of course, but to have maybe a touch of that somewhere in his lineage, I could see that. That would make sense. So we were very curious about what makes up Houdini, our special boy. But mostly I went with the wisdom panel because they offered genetic testing outside of just breed testing. I was curious to see if he would possibly be a carrier of or susceptible to any diseases or illnesses, things to kind of look out for as he gets older. Houdini, the goodest boy, did just celebrate his second birthday a couple of weeks ago. So I was curious to kind of see what we might be in store for with him. And eventually, I would like to do one for Max, our other dog. He is Pitbull. Again, I might be as surprised with his results as I am with Houdini's. So let's get into this and get to know Houdini a little bit better, shall we? So we adopted Houdini when he was 8 weeks old. And he kind of a sad story with his life before us. He was obviously one of a litter, and they were sadly orphaned shortly after birth, is what we were told. So there's a local rescue group that takes in animals that were puppies, specifically puppies and pregnant mamas or new mamas. And his litter was taken in because obviously they were too young to be put up for adoption, and they needed to be bottle fed. Now, I don't know if you have ever bottle fed a dog or a kitten, but just like having a newborn baby, they are a lot of work. They require a lot of time, a whole lot of time. And of course, any newborn is very delicate. But like any newborn, they are very worth it. So his litter was named after Toy Story characters, and his name when he was with the rescue group was Buzz. Of course, it's since been changed to Houdini, and he's the bestest good boy. This is a wonderful rescue group that, like I said, pulls puppies from shelters and rescues them. They take a lot of pregnant moms and take them in, and once they have their babies, they're fostered until the babies are old enough to be adopted out. Mom gets spayed, and then she gets adopted out. That was actually how we found the rescue group to begin with. When we had a spot in our home open up, my daughter wanted to adopt a husky, which I didn't feel would be a good fit for our house, but I told her I would look, and this rescue group had a husky that had recently given birth. She was a husky mix. And sadly, she was only about 6 or 7 months old herself at the time. But they were looking for a home for her. So I emailed them and got to know the rescue crew, the rescue group, a little bit. And after talking with them and showing them videos of our house and our other animals, and turning in a vet reference, we all decided that a husky would not be a good fit for our house, at least not the one that they had. She did not get along with cats. And as you know, or you might know, I have, which was not a great surprise to me. Huskies have a very high prey drive. I didn't think a husky would be a very good fit for our house either, but every dog is different. You never know. But they had an adoption event shortly after talking with him for a little while. And I told my daughter, let's go to this adoption event and get to know the people at the rescue group. Because up to that point, we had just been emailing back and forth, and I felt like it might be good for them to put some faces with names and just get to know us a little bit better. So we went, and while I was talking with one of the adoption coordinators, my daughter was playing with a pen full of lab mix puppies. One she absolutely fell in love with was a blonde lab mix. That was a female. And this dog was just this puppy. Like I said, they were all about, at that time, maybe 7 weeks old. But this puppy was sitting in the pen, barking nonstop. And it easily could have just been that she was excited. The environment was a little bit chaotic. There were a lot of new people, new smells, and it was a very exciting time. Then I looked over and saw, in the middle of all this chaos, there was a beautiful black dog who was just snoozing. He was curled up with a little turkey plushie I'll insert the picture if I can find it. He was just resting. And I said, that looks like that puppy would be a good fit for our pretty chill. So I spoke with the adoption coordinator and said, is he available for adoption? Or is there someone who was coming to meet him today to adopt him? Or, what was his story? What's his availability? And she said, because you have been so patient with the husky and then that fell through, if you want him, he is yours. His name is Buzz. So I told my daughter, we have our puppy. He was not available yet to come home, but that gave us some time to start puppy proofing the house. It had been a very long time since we last had a baby puppy come live at our house. I have had a preference for adopting older dogs. Before I started my job doing what I do now, I used to work with animal hospitals and would work with rescue groups and fosters, animal shelters. I know from experience that babies get adopted very easily and very quickly. Older dogs tend to have a little more trouble. My daughter was insisting she wanted a baby. So anyway, about a week later, he came home. I could see his little bit of white splotch on his chest. He has been such an easy dog. He was house trained very quickly, and his chill attitude that I saw at the adoption event has continued every day since. The only time he gets excitable is when he's out in the backyard, and he gets to run around like crazy and burn off his energy. Or, wagging his tail, at 7 o'clock every night, he gets an hour of the zoomies. Other than that, this is how he is pretty much all the time. He goes with me every morning to drop my daughter off at school. He really likes to go for car rides. He's a really good car buddy. He does not get car sick. He's never been car sick. He doesn't really like to hang his head out of the window, but he does enjoy a car ride. He doesn't really bark all that much. It surprises all of us actually when he does, even him. He loves meeting people. He loves everybody. He's a very happy-go-lucky guy. That is a little bit of background on Houdini. Now, I've said that his name is Houdini, and that is what he goes by most often. But as with most pets, he has quite a few nicknames. He goes by Houdini. We also call him Beanie. Then from Beanie, and when he was a baby, I called him Bambine. And then I called him, of course, Bambino because he was a baby. And then we called him Houdini Bambini. And for some reason, that has transformed into Bamboo. Oh, bless you. Call him Bamboo quite a bit. And like most animals with so many nicknames, he answers to all of them. And people always ask when they hear his name if he gets out of things, if he's an escape artist, like out of the yard. But no. He has gotten out of the backyard one time And all he did was run around the side of the house to the front door where my doorbell notified me. And I ran and let him in. That was his extent of escaping. Well, he's showing you now his nice white splotch with little black dots. With that, I think it's time to get into his wisdom panel results. I have them printed off, and we can go over them. Spark ink from the back. I want to do his breed breakdown first because that was fascinating. Now, like I said before, I thought he was mostly lab with a touch of boxer and who knows what else, but mostly lab primarily. Okay. So it says the wisdom panel detected 16 breeds in Houdini's DNA. His top 5 breeds are 29% American Pit Bull Terrier, 17% Chow Chow, 9% American Staffordshire Terrier, 7% Labrador Retriever, and 7% Australian Cattle Dog. When I tell you that our jaws dropped at the fact that his top hit was 29% pit bull, you could have knocked us over with a feather. Obviously, we have another pit bull. I'd have no problems, no issues whatsoever with the breed, but I thought far and away his top breed would be a Labrador. Given that the next highest, at 17%, being Chow Chow, was also very surprising. The only bit of Chow Chow that I see in him are the black spots on the very bicky back of his tongue. So that was surprising to me. It does go on to break down his other breeds. So, like I said, Houdini has 16 breeds that were detected in his DNA, and these are broken down by groups. So, these are the hits that came up in his guard dog groups. He was 29% American Pit Bull Terrier, 9% American Staffordshire Terrier, 4% American Bulldog, 4% Boxer. I called the Boxer. I was pretty proud of that. 2% Rottweiler, 2% Boston Terrier. For the Asian and Ocean group, he came up with 17% Chow Chow. For the sporting group, he came up with 7% Labrador Retriever, 6% Golden Retriever, 2% American Cocker Spaniel, 1% Vizsla. In the herding category, he had 7% Australian Cattle Dog, 4% German Shepherd Dog, 1% Australian Coolie. And this was another stunning surprise for us. In the Terrier group, he was 3% Chihuahua. Obviously, DNA and genetics are a funny thing. Who knows where that 3% came from, but okay. In his hound group, he is 2% Eagle. That is the genetic DNA of our boy. So, another neat thing that the wisdom panel does is they do they kind of build a family tree. And I was hoping to find some of his litter mates. I don't know if you can see in this lighting, but you can see right through here. Here's some of his brown fur. I actually got a little teary-eyed. The wisdom panel found not only 3 litter mates of his, he has a whole family tree. They found 3 litter mates, 13 extended relatives, and 23 distant relatives of his, which was so exciting. You can, when you register and activate your kit, you can say where you live down to the city. You can just give a region, depending on how specific you want to get. But his family tree extends all up and down the United States East Coast, which I thought was remarkable. He is a pretty special boy. And also his litter mates, their owners have posted pictures of them, which is so cool to see. Of that, they also tested for 267 possible illnesses, I suppose, possible diseases, carriers. Kind of gives you a health profile of your pet. And in that, they look for 267 possibilities. I don't think I'm explaining it well, but I think you catch my understanding. As it turns out, Houdini is at risk for 0 of the 267 conditions that they tested him for. He is a carrier for 1. He is cleared of 266 of them. That was wonderful news. He's always been a very healthy boy, but he's still very young. So I was ecstatic to hear that. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that he may not have health problems as he gets older. But the fact that he has been cleared for the vast majority of these is wonderful. Hey, buddy. The one that he is a carrier for is called the protein-losing nephropathy. Protein-losing nephropathy, ELN, is a disorder which affected dogs lose protein through their kidneys, leading to kidney failure over time. This variant has been identified in Airedale Terriers and soft-coated Wheaten Terriers. Houdini has 1 copy of this variant for this condition. The significance of this condition is unknown given your dog's breed. While your dog has the genetic variant, we're unable to fully predict its effects in your dog, is what the wisdom panel results have said. It goes on to say what it means for Houdini. 2 copies of the protein-losing nephropathy variant are needed for a dog to be considered at a significantly increased risk of developing this condition. Although there is scientific evidence to suggest 1 copy of the protein-losing nephropathy variant may increase the risk of a dog developing this condition. This risk level has not been fully determined. This is because PLN has a complex background and several different genes and environmental factors are likely to contribute to the onset of symptoms. The initial sign of PLN is high levels of protein in the urine. This leads to damage to the kidneys and signs of kidney failure, such as excessive drinking and frequent urination. As the condition progresses, weight loss, vomiting, and loss of appetite may follow. Clinical signs are normally noted in dogs between 4 and 8 years of age. The severity of the signs can vary significantly between individuals, with some dogs being severely affected, whereas others will not experience any signs during their lifetime. Given that Sweet Bambino only has 1 he's not a big fan of sitting on camera when he knows the camera's on him. So we had a little change of venue here. It took a few minutes to kind of decompress a little bit. I figured we're almost finished. We'll just change the venue up. That Houdini has 1 copy of this variant, the PLN, so I'm not super concerned about that, but it is good to know to keep an eye out for that for him in the future. Next, they have traits and behaviors, and they performed 58 genetic trait tests on Houdini. And they said, first, we learned he's a very good boy. But here's what else we found. Coat color and type. He has 1 copy of dominant black. Black or brindle is possible. 1 copy of fawn. Fawn is possible, which he does not have. 1 copy of mask, which means he possibly has a dark muzzle, which he does. But it's not a mask, it's just solid black. 1 copy of recessive black. 1 copy of recessive red. He has 1 copy of tan points, which he does not have those. It says, next, we were testing for color modification. It says, we found 2 special color modifications in Houdini's DNA. He has 1 copy of chocolate, BC, black features likely, chocolate possible. 1 copy of chocolate, BD, black features likely, chocolate possible. And they found 9 more, but those were the 2 for him. They have 5 coat pattern traits, but they tested for those, but they found 1 special coat pattern variant in Houdini's DNA, which is a saddle tan, which means that on the dog's sides here would be tan, and on the back, like a saddle, would be black. That's typically found in beagles and other hound dogs, but he does not have that. coat length and curl. They tested for 6 traits, and they found one special coat length or curl variant in Houdini's DNA, which was for long hair, which, as you can see, he does not have. And they tested for 3 traits of hairlessness, and they said genetically it is unlikely Houdini is hairless, which, again, as you can see, naturally he is not. They tested for 1 trait for shedding, and they said they found one special shedding variant in Houdini's DNA, and that is he has 2 copies of reduced shedding, which means he is a low shedder, which he is. He is not a very shedding dog. He tends to hold on to his hair. They tested for 3 more coat traits, and it says Houdini doesn't have any other genetic coat traits. For head shape, they had tested for 2 traits, and it said we found one special head shape variant in Houdini's DNA, and that he might have a short snout, which he does not. He has an average length snout. He is not brachiocephalic. For eye color, it had 1 trait. You can see Houdini likes to hold hands. He's a big fan of doing that. The eye color trait is that Houdini likely has brown or amber eyes, although blue eyes can occur due to other variants, which he does have brown eyes, very deep brown eyes. For his ears, they tested. It says we found one special ear variant in Houdini's DNA, and that is he has floppy ears, which he does have. His ears are pinned back a little bit right now because he's stressed. He does have naturally very floppy ears. Extra toes, they tested for 2 traits, and says Houdini appears to have the most common number of toes for a dog, 5 on each front paw and 4 on each back paw. And then last, behavioral traits, says that Houdini is more likely to have generalized fear and anxiety, which we kind of disagree with. He is a very laid-back dog, generally speaking. Propensity for weight gain, he is a little bit more likely. Cross his paws when he's laying down. This is a little bit more likely, which he does do. So when he's laying down, sometimes he will cross his paws one over the other. It's very cute. Avoids getting wet. It falls right into the neutral. Let's see. Says he falls into the typical area for separation anxiety. Less likely for motion sickness. Typical for panting. Sleeps on his back is typical, which I would agree with. He does sleep on his back quite a bit. We lost Houdini. He had enough, and he was done. So he is off. Not here. He's just recovering a little bit. He's not a big fan of being on camera, like I said. So glad we had him for as long as we did today. But it says on the last little bit, Houdini's ideal weight range is 44 to 73 pounds, which I found to be kind of funny because Houdini, I think, is at a perfect weight right now, and he is at 75 pounds. He is a big dog, but you can still feel his ribs. He's not overweight, he's not underweight, and his vet agrees that he's at a good weight for his size and where he is in life right now. Like all of us, he is probably going to gain weight as he gets older, but we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But overall, he is a healthy pit bull mix, which is so surprising to us. But Max is here to send us off. I would love to get a test done on Max to see, again, mostly what he might be in store for later in life. He did have kind of a rough start. When he came to us, he was heartworm positive. He has a huge propensity to ear infections, so I would be interested to see what else this guy might have brewing for us in the future. They also have genetic profiling for cats. I would be really interested to see about Wishbone and Sawyer as well. But these tests aren't cheap, so one at a time. But for now, that was Houdini's experience, and it was really interesting. Like I said, I thought he was going to be mostly black lab. There were times where I could see Boxer in him, and I thought maybe Malinois with the shape of his head. My daughter thought possibly Greyhound with the way that he runs. If you look up videos on the way a Greyhound's body will kind of fold in on itself, their spine is special. It's not like any other dog's spine. And he runs in that style. So it was interesting that Greyhound did not come up. That would have been kind of a reach, but I could see where she was going with that. But I was pleased to see that I was right with Boxer. But we did not see Pitbull or any of the bully breeds or Chihuahua. That was pretty funny. But thank you for being here. You could be anywhere else. And you chose to spend your time with us and get to know Houdini a little bit better. We'll see if we do this again with the other dogs and cats. Would you be interested in a video with them as well? Let me know. In the meantime, I hope you have a lovely week. We will see you back next time.